Hi there, this is John from Southampton Motorcycle Breakers. What I'm going to be showing you today is how to seal an engine, either for storage or for posting out. So we find it easiest to make a small cradle, two metal brackets going up to where one of the engine mounting bolts goes through, and just securing that onto a wooden board. At the back here, we've just got it popped up on a small wooden block, so you can swivel the engine over 180 degrees so you can clean underneath on the sump section. So this bike that we've been working on, obviously we drained it all of oil and fluids when we were stripping and breaking the bike. So now what you need to do, especially if it's going into storage, is to make sure there is a little bit of oil down each one of the bores just to keep the engine lubricated and to sort of seal up the engine. So just with a small funnel with a rubber hose attachment, just secure it deeply down in where the plugs were located and pour a small cap full of oil down each one of the bores. So you need to repeat that 4 times all the way across each one. The engine we're actually working on at the moment, the one in the photos here, is a Triumph TT600 engine, but the same principles will apply. That's a little bit of oil going down each one of the bores. Once you've got the oil down all 4 bores, it's time to replace the plugs back into the plug holes and screw them down tightly to make sure it's well sealed up. So they'll be fine for cleaning now. No water will get into any of those ports. So the next thing we do is the intakes. We've sealed up the intakes already, but you'll see how we do it when we do the exhaust ports. But with these, we just use some vinyl type material, which is totally waterproof and cable tied on. Thick plastic would do much the same, just needs to be cabled on tightly. You have the vacuum balance pipe holes that come out of the intakes. These we've just blocked off with little plugs. Any type of plug that you can find that will sit in firmly and make sure it forms a good seal in there, so no water or anything can get inside of there. These don't have a carburetor, they have injectors, so we've also got the injector holes here which need to be sealed. We do that with a silver sticky back tape, so a small piece of tissue pushed in and then sealed, but it'll be exactly the same as we're doing on the exhaust ports. On this heat exchanger, you need to make sure there's a rubber pipe. If you just join the two together, the water pipes will need to be plugged up. They don't need to be sealed as well because obviously water flows through them anyway, but we tend to block them up before we start cleaning the engine. So that you can see the intakes here are all sealed. The balance vacuum pipes holes have been sealed, and where the injectors sit in has been sealed. So the next part of the process now is we'll move on to the exhaust ports and show you how that's done. Right, now we get on to sealing the exhaust ports. So we've got 4 ports that need to be sealed up. Inside each one of those will be an old copper gasket, which is often left behind. So it's a matter of getting the screwdriver in there and lifting out the copper gasket and just giving a general clean up around the outside. Use a flathead screwdriver. There's a good shot of the exhaust gasket that's sealed in there. Those need to come out, and then just clean gently around the edge. You don't want too much dirt going down inside of there. We then use a kitchen roll rolled up very tightly. We pack each one of the ports as hard as you can. Sometimes we need to use a old bolt with the head of the bolt and a mallet and just drive that paper in there. You don't want any water or moisture getting in. You want the paper to sit fairly proud for the sealant to go on. So there you can see the bolt as we're hammering it in just to get a nice tight fit. Once you've got all 4 ports sealed up, it's time then to move on to putting the sealing tape over the top of it. So if you use one of the old copper gaskets that you got out as a template, which you can then use to draw around, you should be able to get the perfect size for what you're looking for. Before you put the sealant on, these need to be cleaned up now. So now that you've protected anything from getting down inside the engine, it's time to go through with the screwdriver and then we use the wire wheels or the Dremel tool, and you just clean up that area. You need to get it perfectly shiny and immaculate so that the sealing tape will seal into there as much as possible. So you clean up all those port areas. The sealing tape we use is the silver foil tape, which is available from most motorcycle or car shops. Using the copper gaskets, we cut out the template, and we like to double it up because it's quite thin. So where the ports are, we'll wipe them down with a bit of white spirit just to clean any grease off there. Use the heat gun just to dry it out thoroughly so that you can form a good seal when you put the silver tape over. There we go. With the first silver tape, you just peel it back and you seal it in there. The tape is quite thin, so you want to make sure that the paper towel that you pushed in sits quite proud. We then apply a second layer of the silver tape because we're going to be jet washing this engine, so we need it to be as firm as possible so that the jet washer doesn't break it. And you have to do that across all 4 ports. It's the same sort of principle we used on the injectors on the other side, a bit of tissue down there and the silver foil over the top. It's imperative though to make sure that that area is clean, otherwise the silver tape will not stick, and if there's any grease or grime left on there, it'll peel off. So as I say, use white spirit and the heat gun to dry it out, and then you can seal them up. So that's all 4 ports now sealed. Right, so now we're going to be starting on the jet washing of the engine. Very basic and simple. Pop it on a trolley and get it out into an open area so we can get the jet washer onto it. Right, one of the first things we do is we need to brush it down with a degreaser. And one of the best degreasers we found is Gunk Engine Degreaser. It's a brush-on degreaser. You literally brush it onto the engine, and then with a stiff bristle brush, you keep working it in and working it in. I'm sure there's other alternatives out there. Sometimes we've used petrol when we've run out of degreaser, but we have found this Gunk one is the best one that we've got so far. We tend to put it into a squirty bottle and spray the engine all over. Get it well coated in the degreaser, and then using a long, firm, stiff bristled brush, just get into all the areas where the dirt and grime is collected. Just let it work itself in, brush it in, particularly in some of the more difficult areas where the front sprocket has been running and there's normally a grease pile up in there. Underneath the starter motor, all the areas, so just keep working it in and working it in. You have to watch sometimes with the degreaser is it can stain aluminium. So we tend to work fairly quickly with it, but it is also quite good to leave it for 10-15 minutes and just let it soak in, and then you begin with the jet washing. Use the jet washer on its fan setting initially just to wash it all down, and then use the actual jet part of it to give it a good thorough clean off. Where you've got it on the engine mounting bolt, you can tip the engine over to clean on the underside where the sump is. So that's it, jet washed completely. All those ports have been sealed up, so no water is going to get into that engine. We've got the double silver tape over the exhaust ports. So that's the engine there. It has all been washed and cleaned now, and it's just a matter of drying it off. As you can see, there's quite a difference. It's got most of the dirt and muck off that engine. It is not as hard as doing it with a wire wheel or doing it manually. The jet washer seems to do most of the work for you, as long as you've brushed it very thoroughly with the gunk cleaner first. So now we wheel it up, back up to the garage, and we use the air line to blow it out. If you don't have an air line, then you'll need to use loads of tissue paper or towels just to dry it as much as you can. But an air line is possibly the best because you can get into all the little nooks and crevices, get down into those plug cap holes and get it all blown out. What we then do with the engine is we leave it in a warm, dry place. We often have to put heaters on at night, being here in England, and we let it dry out naturally, and then we will prepare the engine for the final storage parts. So here we can see the engine's finally finished and done. We leave it all sealed up. We've put a bit of oil down all of the bores so we know it is all safe and ready for storage. That's the crankcase breather, which you block off with a little pipe there, and you can see there's some cable clips on it as well. So the last thing left to do now is we just spray it all down with WD-40 and blow it off with the airline again, as WD-40 removes as much moisture as possible from the engine. If it's going into storage, it's a good idea to block up any little holes that are in there in case any spiders build in there or any little wasps start laying nests in there. So get all the little holes sealed up with just balls of tissue or something similar to that. As you can see, it's cleaned up really well. We're quite pleased with this engine. As I said before, this is the Triumph TT600. It's a 2003 engine. What we will do is we'll finish off the cradle and put 2 metal brackets down the front side of the engine just to support it. Then it'll be wrapped up and sealed and it'll go into storage. It's also ideal if you're going to be posting the engine off somewhere. A lot of couriers insist that it is drained of all oil and sealed before posting. So that's it there. That's how to degrease, wash and prepare an engine for storage or for transportation. Hope this has helped. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up and give us a subscribe if you want more videos like this. And thanks so much for watching from all of us here at Southampton Motorcycle Breakers.